Hey guys, welcome back to part 6 of my 3D modeling tutorial for 3D Studio Max. Today we're going to continue with the blockout of the M4 by building the rail mount system that sits on top of the upper receiver. So let's jump right into it. In all my viewports, I'm just going to select the receiver shape here and then press Z. Now you'll see in all my viewports that I'm kind of zoomed in on that particular area. And so now that I have that done, I'm just going to hide all the other unselected objects so we can work freely with this without anything being in our way. Next thing I'm going to do is go into editable poly mode, select edge mode, and I'm going to take this edge right over here as my width. I'm going to use this as the width of my rail mount system, or at least the Y value for where the width of our rail mount system is determined. So I'm going to copy the Y value here, and next I'm going to go back to edge mode actually, and I'm going to ring the edge ring right next to the line that we just copied the Y value from. Next, I'm going to unselect that little end piece, turn on edge constraints, and I'm going to move that new edge we created onto the Y value that we just copied. Alright. Next, I'm going to create one more edge, and I'm going to bring that down to the same exact Y value as well. So now we should have one straight flat edge on that same exact Y value. And don't worry if the geometry is a little messy. At this point, I'm just more worried about maintaining the integrity of the shapes that we have. It's just a lot easier to keep everything looking clean by going back through the geometry later on and deleting what we don't need. But since we're just in blockout phase, I want to maintain the integrity of our shapes so that in case we do need to edit something later, it'll be easily done by just, manipulating vertex points or edges or whatever you're working from to get the result you need. Alright, and now I'm going to turn the edge constraint off. I'm going to shift and extrude that. I'm going to copy some Z values now and just paste them as I go. Oops, actually let me just target weld that first. I'm going to just extrude that edge along with it as I'm going. There we go. And then we'll go and target weld that again. And then we're going to shift and extrude one more time. And then I actually need this Z value. I'm just going to bring that to the origin point, ring and connect, copy the Y value there. There we go. And then just weld these vertex points together and we should be fine. Everything seems to be working. Alright. And then just cap that little that little triangle point off there. Alright, so now we should all have something looking approximately like this. Next, what I'm going to do is create a cylinder in the top view. Just by going to the Create panel, create a cylinder, and I think I'm going to go with a 16-sided cylinder this time. Alright, move that into position. Just going to have that sit back here somewhat. I'm going to adjust the height a little. There we go, that should be good. Well, maybe I'll take a little off of that actually. There we go. That should be good. Okay. And now what I want to do is make sure that this very outside edge here, the farthest one out on the Y value, is going to be running flush with the edges that we have over here. So what I need to do is just go back in here and copy our Y value. And then I'm going to make sure this is centered on the Y origin. And I'm just going to use that Y value we just copied and use it as our radius. And that should end up giving us the same value on that outside edge. So let's just check that out really quick. This edge right here is the furthest out, so if you just keep an eye on the Y value down here, if it's unchanged, that means we were successful there. So let's go and delete some things up here. Actually, just select that middle edge or the middle vertex points and connect them. That way we don't have to recreate this face up here at the top when we're done. And I think I'm going to do the same thing with the middle points as well. Except now that we have this line here in the center, actually, you know what? There's a much easier way to do that. I think I'm just going to select the faces on the inside, and I'm going to do this little function here called Inset. What Inset does, if you just select the regular Inset function instead of the settings mode, if you hold the left mouse button in, you can just kind of create exactly what you think it is. It's an inset of the shape that we already have, which is a cylinder, so we have another circle on the inside of that, and all it does is just brings a new line of edges inward or outward, whatever you want as your end result. So what I'm going to do with that is just take, while we have the faces selected, I'm going to click collapse. Now we have a center point, and it just collapsed directly in the center of our selection. And next I'm going to just take these vertex points and delete them. There we go. Awesome. Now what I'm going to do is cut this in half one more time, because we still have the symmetry modifier working. Oops. And we're going to just copy some X value points. Alright. It looks like I have to get rid of the negative symbol there. Alright. And one more time. Oops. Alright. Now that I have that done, I'm just going to delete a few things here. There you go. Bridge that together. And we still have a little bit more fixing to do at this point, but not too much. So what I'm going to do is just return this to the origin there. Actually, while I'm at it, just bring all of this inward. Bring that to the origin. I'm going to weld some points together. And all the geometry we have messed up right now, like these n-gons or open areas, like you'll see this right here isn't completely welded together. That's fine, we will fix all of that later. I'm just more worried about getting a shape that slightly resembles our rifle into the scene. We're going to weld that. Alright, everything seems to be working. And that looks pretty good so far. There's still some fixing that we got to do. We're probably going to change the height of that just a little bit. But the receiver shape is coming along very nicely. Another thing I wanted to do was, last time when I left off, I mentioned there were still a couple of loops down here for the sling loop and the bayonet stud that we have to model. And we'll just get right into that and then call off the tutorial after we finish that. So I'm going to hide unselected with the front sight here selected. I'm going to go into editable poly mode, and we'll just start with the bayonet stud and come up here to look at that. And looks like we need pretty much the length of our shape there. We'll just extrude that down. Good enough. Actually, I have an easier way of doing that. We'll just use the edges and shift extrude those down. And now we're going to use, oops, I'm going to make those planar on the Y value. Now that I have that, we can just weld these faces together, or bridge them together actually. And it looks like I gotta create a line over here. Alright. There we go. So now we have something to work our bayonet stud off of. And if you'll notice, the bayonet stud isn't actually as wide. Let me get a better reference image up here. You'll see that it's kind of wide here where the ring is, and it comes out, and I think we actually have to widen our piece a little bit, but the actual stud itself isn't that wide. So what we just have to do is kind of adjust the width of this line right here. That should be good. I think we're even going to bring down, yeah, these lines right here would do. I'm going to copy that Z value there. There we go. There we go. And I think if we just keep it that wide, that should be fine. We'll extrude that out. Extrude it some more. And there we go. Now we have the start for our bayonet plug. And we'll get further into finishing that off later on. And then also I just want to create these two little sling loops over here. So I'm just going to come right in here, create a cylinder from the side view, because if you look into the reference image, they're actually rounded at the bottom just like cylinders, and they've got these little cylinders here in the center, or holes in the center that'll be cylindrical. So if you're going into very high detail, it'll be easier for you to start from a cylinder and just kind of work your way, work the actual holes or cutouts in there into the shape. Alright, bring that outward a little. I think I'm actually going to copy the Y value here. And since the pivot point is still on 0, I'm just going to use that. Paste it in, there we go, good enough. And just like before, we actually have to copy that Y value. There we go. And then we're going to flatten that with make planar. Just bring that down to the same Z value as the other one. There we go. And now we can actually attach the little cylinder that we created. There we go. Actually, I might just go down on the sides here a little bit. Since you're never really going to be looking at the sling loops too much, I'm just going to start with an 8-sided cylinder. That'll be just fine. And it's time to attach that. Right, and if you wanted to create the actual cutouts, I mean, I would just go with an inset, and then once you have that selected, you bridge it. But I'm really not worried about putting that much detail into it. I'm just going to leave that as a solid, but just in case you wanted to put that much detail into your rifle, go right ahead. And like I said, we might be doing that for the high poly anyway. It's just right now we're just working on the blockout, and it isn't that important. I'm going to hide unselected, and I'm going to select this to zoom in on. Okay. And connect. Okay. There we go. And now I need the Y value from this one right here. And we will just turn these 3 points into that exact same Y value. Alright. Actually, it might be a good idea to just inset this anyway, and then collapse. Now we have the lines here in the center to kind of keep that face. Next thing I want to do is, well, maybe I'll just copy this Z value here, or I mean X value. There we go. And let's see. Now we'll just create kind of this box shape or whatever. Oops. Delete those faces. I'll select the outline, extrude them, turn them flat. And for right now, that's going to do, I'm going to do a lot of editing to this area later when we do the high poly models, but for right now, that's going to be just fine. It's not too important on how much detail we add into this. So with that said, I think I'm going to stop the tutorial at this point, and next time we get back we're going to finish the block out with the buttstock, and then from that point on we're pretty much up to the point where we're going to edit the basic shapes into whatever custom rifle mod or whatever we're going to build, and we'll be going into high poly modeling just after that. So the only thing left to block out really is the buttstock. So I'm just going to save my file now, and I'll see you guys back for the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.